Hey, okay, so this is kind of an impromptu video. I just released one over autism and elopement, but it focuses mainly on children. And I already had a comment come in saying, hey, what about adults? Because we do this too. And it's such a great point. And I want to share some information about that today because I don't want the adults to feel left out. I'm here to help educate and support our community. And it sounds like this is a topic that could be helpful. So, first of all, elopement, whenever you see that word, you might think that that means running away and getting married. That's one form of the word, but elopement is also wandering away or leaving without telling people where you're going, um, like leaving unexpectedly or wandering off. So it's very prevalent in autistic children. And the first video I made over this is really important to watch, like for safety, just understanding and awareness, and kind of how to approach that with children. But adults have this tendency to elope as well, autistic adults. And there are several reasons for that. So I wanted to talk about that today and dispel some of the shame around this experience that probably many of us in the community deal with. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments if this is something that you do, because I can already tell from the comment that I received. Maybe there's a little bit of shame about this. Maybe there's this feeling of, hey, am I the only one who does this? Why do I do it? Right. So let's kind of meet up in the comments and help one another feel a little less alone. But first of all, one reason why an autistic adult might elope or wander off without telling others is sensory overwhelm. There's too much going on. It's too loud. The lights are too bright. And communication, difficulty with communication is going to affect probably all of the reasons that I shared today for elopement. Because let's say you're overwhelmed with sensory stuff, it usually, at least for me, gets harder to communicate during those times. So the lights are too bright, it's too loud, there's too many people trying to talk to me at once, and it's hard for me to say, hey, this is all really upsetting. It's easier for me to just walk away and leave. And I'm not doing that to be mean. I'm not doing that to cause upset or overwhelm or frustration to anybody. It's just sometimes it's like, I need to leave now. I need to go away. Right. And I just want to say, because this is online, I never do this with my children. Like, I never leave my children. Okay. My children are never left unattended. But sensory overwhelm can definitely cause us to walk away, wander off unexpectedly. Also, seeking a need or a special interest, maybe that hasn't been met in a while. This is also, I'm thinking, like interoception. So, interoception is our ability to process whether or not, interoception is our ability to pick up on internal cues that our body gives us when we need to go to the bathroom, when we're hungry, when we're tired. And so maybe all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom and I didn't know. So, there's this need that needs to be met, and we go meet that need. Or maybe you're at a party in downtown and you'd rather be at a bookstore because you need quiet, right? You need some time alone. And so you leave to go accommodate that need. But again, the communication is lacking there because maybe you're so overwhelmed at this point that you don't have words to communicate where you're going, or you can't deal with the small talk, or you just can't have one more conversation to try to explain why you need to leave. You're worried you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, whatever. So seeking out a specific need. Difficulty communicating intentions. That's kind of what I've said with the communication piece. Wandering off, leaving a situation might not make sense to other people. So it's kind of hard to communicate our intentions there. Again, I'm not trying to upset anyone. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. It's not because this is boring. Maybe it is, but that's not the reason why. Like I'm not trying to be mean or rude. It's just because there's a need inside that needs to be met. And the only way I feel like it can be met sometimes is to leave. This can also look like maybe if you've heard the term Irish goodbye, where you just leave and don't tell anybody what's happening. That can sometimes be a form of elopement. So yeah, the next one on my list here is feeling trapped or unsafe. Maybe you leave because you don't feel safe in that situation. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Executive functioning challenges. So executive functioning is a series of processes that happen in the prefrontal cortex of our brain. These involve planning, decision-making, follow-through. And so a lot of times our executive functioning is off and we don't quite put together the pieces like another person would do. So because I don't know, I'm still using the party example, but because I'm at a party, maybe my brain is overwhelmed and I don't follow the dots of, oh, I need to tell someone thanks for inviting me. And I need to make sure that I do a round and say hi to people that are expecting me to be here. And then I'm going to, drop off the dish that I brought in the kitchen so that people know that I brought something to eat. It's like there's this checklist sometimes and follow through that doesn't happen with our executive functioning, that can sometimes lead us to just be like, oh, whoops, I'm just going to leave the situation and not follow through on those check marks. And sometimes other people are left wondering, like, what happened? Where'd Taylor go? It can also be a meltdown or a shutdown response. So I talk about meltdowns a lot here on the channel, and I've also got a class over them, Meltdowns 101, that I'll put a link to in the description. But yeah, with meltdowns, sometimes we just get overwhelmed, and it's a lot easier to deal, at least for myself, it's a lot easier to deal with a meltdown privately. I would say probably this is the number one reason why I excuse myself, or I wander off maybe without saying anything. I think I do this at family functions sometimes. Like I'll just go hide. This is usually when I'm kind of having a meltdown, and I don't want to tell anybody about it. I don't want to talk through it. It's just hard for other people to understand. I just need silence. I just need to be by myself. And there's almost this demand avoidance involved. Like I don't want anybody else to know where I am. Sometimes I just need, and I again, my children are not involved in this. Like I always make sure that they're safe, but sometimes there's this demand avoidance of I need to leave, I need to be by myself, and this feeling of I'm not going to tell people. I don't know. It's so strange. Like at first I was thinking I don't deal with elopement, and then I'm like maybe I kind of do. Maybe so. And then the other one on my list here is desire for autonomy. Oh my gosh, autonomy is such a big one, and that's such a great segue. I didn't even plan that, but demand avoidance sometimes is flipped on its head. That phrase doesn't really make sense here. Demand avoidance sometimes is approached from a different angle of desire for autonomy. So autonomy is the sense of us being in control of our actions and what we do with our body, with our time, with our energy. And if we feel a lack of autonomy, that is a huge threat, especially for autistic people. It goes hand in hand with demand avoidance a lot of times because a demand being placed on us feels like a loss of autonomy. So whenever we lose this feeling of autonomy, bye, see ya, I'm going somewhere else, because then whenever I'm by myself, I don't have to answer to anybody. So that's a big one. And then the last thing on my list here is dissociation or loss of time awareness. So sometimes this might be like a hyperfixation or a special interest, or your executive functioning has kicked in, okay? And now you're like working hard and you're in the zone and you're just going straight ahead and just focus, focus, focus. And you kind of lose track of what's going on around you. And so you end up, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're walking and exploring a new city and you just keep going and going and going because you get entranced kind of in the discovery of it all. And maybe you were supposed to meet up with somebody and you forgot. So you end up kind of wandering off into the city. There's all different forms that this could take. But I just wanted to explore some brief reasons why it might happen for autistic adults, and just let you know, if you do this, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone, and there's no shame in this. So our brains process information differently, and sometimes we need to wander away. Now, there are things that we can do to make this easier on the people who love us, because I'm sure that's something we can share in the comments as well. I'm sure that our loved ones have gotten frustrated. I almost said frustrated. I don't know why. I'm sure our loved ones have gotten frustrated with this tendency in the past, and so once we become aware of our patterns, it's much easier to communicate about them. And I always recommend, especially for autistic people, communicating about our patterns when we're in a regulated state. So when I'm eloping, or if I run off or need to go be by myself, that's not the time to explain to somebody why I need to do that, right? So understanding this pattern beforehand and being able to communicate to my loved ones, hey, you might notice sometimes I run off. It's nothing personal. I just need to kind of get my bearings, have some time by myself to recharge, and then I'll come back or whatever. So you can use this word when talking about it, elopement. A lot of people probably aren't going to understand what that means because they're going to think that it means running away to get married. So you can educate somebody else that it means to wander away, often without telling other people. So yeah, that's autistic elopement. Let me know in the comments if you deal with this, any tips you have for kind of managing it and casting off the shame that can come with it. There's no need for the shame. And thanks for watching. Check out the part 1. I'll put the link to that in the description as well. Like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with future channel stuff. And check out my meltdowns class. I'll put that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.